Mami Inkare Brandon Wiggins, Mbak Ki Uda Practicum. I'm going to be talking today about idiophones, monkeys, documentation, and YouTube. Very briefly, so we have time for your questions. Okay, so idiophones, for anyone that doesn't know, are sounds or multiple sounds used to kind of give a feel for a story, or just you can probably use them in conversation as well. It kind of draws the audience or the listener into the situation and gives them a better feel for it. Where are they mostly found? African languages and Asian languages. Other languages have them too, but I think these language areas have more of them normally. Okay. And the perceptions I was talking about is like smell, color, touch, shape, actions, and movement. Some of the methods that we looked at when trying to elicit these were the Max Planck Institute method for getting expressives, and you can find that on their website. They provide a manual for elicitation. It's created by Sylvia Kupfes, and they have audio files. They do have video files, but there's no access to them for some kind of copyright infringement, legal issues, I guess. But the audio files are available to download, and those were kind of fun. They mostly consist of like water sounds and like walking through mud. So what you do is you play these audio files for your consultants, and they try to think of their idiophone or their sound that they may have to represent that action, event, sound, etc. So the ideal procedure would be to set up a list of what you want to try to elicit, get your files in order, and set up the environment, with the room, and let your consultants know what you're going to be asking them to ahead of time, so they can be thinking about it. The Uda Practicum method, the way it happened, was we started off using the Max Planck Institute method, and we were playing the recordings, and we were getting good feedback, and we were getting the idiophones. But then it just kind of turned into chain reactions of, well, we also have this for that, but what about this situation? And it kind of went, not out of control, but we got a lot more than we thought we'd get just by playing one audio file. So after all of that, when I went back to look through some of our information, it became a needle in a haystack method. So I would go through the transcriptions and look for these words as well to try to pull them out. So the Uda idiophones, we got about 31 documented so far. There are more. It seems that there are a lot more. And it looks like they usually appear at the end of like phrases or the sentences. I'll talk about the monkey story in a second to kind of give you an example. But they're very specific for that situation. Like, a good example was in the monkey story. Well, I'll just go to it right now. The monkey story has this sound for a gunshot, but notice how in parentheses I have a black powder rifle, like a musket. That gunshot noise you could not use for a different kind of gun. Like they mentioned that like an AK-47 is popular with the military there. They would use a different idiophone for that sound. So you don't have like a generic gunshot sound. It goes with the particular gun. And that is probably the same with other situations and other sounds too. In the monkey story, if you remember towards the end, when Umphone let out that big, oh, that was the gunshot noise. And it was kind of, when I first heard it, I was like, what is that? Because I didn't know what an idiophone was when I was getting this story. So I was like, wait. So at the end, I'm like, what was that awesome noise that you let out? Like it worked. I was just like, oh man, I am really into the end of this story now. It I even though it's not like I wasn't paying attention, but if there was anybody that wasn't, that like really gets you back in the game. So it was awesome. We have another story that we didn't go over here called Big Head, translated of course, Big Head, Protruding Stomach, Scrawny Legs. It's about, I'll give you an overview. It's about 3 children who are told to stay in their house. They can do whatever, they can hang out in the house, but they're not supposed to leave the house, like outside the house, because their parents are going to market. And well, Big Head gets a big idea that he really wants to chew on some coconut. So he is talking to his other siblings, portraying stomach and scrawny legs, like, let's go get these coconuts from the trees right outside. And they're like, I don't know. And then he ends up convincing them, like, I really want to chew some of this coconut. So they go out and he climbs the tree, and he's like, well, they kind of don't want to help him still. So he's like, well, I'll just do it. So he climbs the tree and he's gathering these coconuts, and he looks down to see how many he's gathered, and his head is so big that I think the weight of it causes it just to fall off. And as it's falling, at the end of the phrase where it says, like, and his head fell off, well, it's just kind of like, well, that's neat. Well, then you add this idiophone for the frou, and I think you can say like frou, 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 frou. That's the sound of like the rolling through the branches and tumbling down. His head, but he can't catch it. He's got hands full of coconuts. So and then you end it with like the frou, and then you go, that? Is that right? With this plosive in the beginning here, and that's the sound of it hitting the ground. So after this happens, the boy protruding stomach is laughing at his brother, okay? So when we say protruding stomach, we mean like he has a huge stomach, okay? Think about how big that other one's head was that fell off. So his stomach is so big that he's laughing, and then all of a sudden it bursts open and explodes. So I have a bursting explosion to mean that like he was so full of laughter that it just burst open. And that's the oh, right? And then the other brother that's sitting here watching his other siblings fall apart, it's like, I've got to go tell mother in the market. So he starts running to the market, and he's running and running down this road. And his legs are so scrawny and weak that they snap while he's running. They just snap right in half. And that sound, after in the story she says that his legs snap, you know, it's a bye. And I put the parentheses like wood, because I was like, what kind of sounds like? It says like when you break a branch. And it's just that kind of instinct. It's kind of like an explosion in a way, I guess. But so I've been noticing the sounds that happen really immediately and kind of like out there start with these plosive sounds with the K's and P's. But so those are just some examples of what I found. I'm actually going to segue into some more socio-linguistic stuff here now with documentation. So we used a couple video cameras thanks to Dr. Nash. We used 2 different Edirol recorders thanks to Dr. Dwyer as well. And we would set up these elicitations, and I just had a little tiny tripod I got for like $1 at the Dollar Tree, and we would just set up on the table. But this is just kind of an overview of like some price ranges that we, for the products that we used. The Edirol is actually not available anymore. You can get on eBay for about $150, $200, but I haven't found any newer version, and all the popular sites say no longer available. So we use that for video and audio. The storage that we use for SD cards, temporarily, notice, we were shooting all this in HD, so our file sizes were huge, and we kept running out of SD cards. Like I would go home at the end of the day with multiple SD cards just filled, because we've tried to video everything we were doing. We videotaped like a lot of our discussions about the language. So once I got home, I would put them all on my external hard drive, because we have probably 200 to 300 gigs of video alone. And then that's not counting the audio. So we have to have some place to put this stuff. So I was lucky that I already had this external hard drive that I was just pouring all this video footage into. We also got a couple of external hard drives that we were going to transfer all of these archive files and give to our consultants and to the professor to take back to Nigeria with them. Which kind of leads me into my next topic, talking about YouTube. Having all this stuff is great, all these files, but if they're just in the hard drives that we have together, there's other people out there. There's lots of Nigerians throughout the world, and there's lots of like Uda speakers that don't just live near them. So YouTube was a way that we could allow them to access the stories that we've been documenting. Maybe how to hold a conversation, just different topics like that. Now, in the beginning, we talked as a group, to see what are we going to do with the information that we collect for this future month, not knowing really where we would go at first. So the main understanding that we had with each other was that sharing the information that we gathered was going to be okay as long as it was in a non-commercial use, not charging any money for it, and it was for educational purposes and academic resources. So I had a thought the other day when I'm looking at all this video footage that I have. I'm like, what am I going to do to all of this? I mean, a lot of files are too big to put on the wiki. I would have to cut a lot of it up. So it's just like, well, how can we use this more than us just having it? Because we need to get it to people that want to learn the language, to preserve it, and not just staying just with the people that already know it. So we decided to create a YouTube channel. It's not a means of preservation. It's not an archive. It's more of a teaching tool and a communication tool. On there, we can video stories. They can use their laptops at home if they have a friend that has a good story that wants to share on YouTube in Uda. They can have them come inside and just record it instantly and put the videotape up. You can share experiences. You can comment on the videos. Maybe someone somewhere has a slightly different version of the monkey story. The monkey story is on YouTube. You can create just the Uda only versions, and then you can create the English translations to help people learn. So it's a place to gather and grow. Let me see. Here. I'll just go through it really quick. I won't go through all the in-depth stuff. But so right now these videos are public. But if we wanted to, we could make them so only people we wanted to see them could. So you can still have something on YouTube that isn't searchable for other people. And you can only allow like the people you know to view the videos. But right now, since we have them public, I can go in and just type in. Caps lock on. I'm not used to not my Mac. Okay. So, and right here, the second one is a clip of Bon giving them the monkey story in Uda. As well as we have a wedding story from Chris. And so, shown right here. And with YouTube, you can also apply to have longer time lengths of video footage. So right at first it gives you 15, but you can give like your phone number, and then they'll be like, all right, you're trusted, and they can give you more time that you can put on per video. Let's see here. Another thing that was great about creating this YouTube account is it also creates a Google account. So you can also get Google+, you can get all kinds of, let's see here, added value in social networking. Here it is, okay. My last slide here, though, also relates to Google. One second here. And this also got me thinking about the Endangered Languages project that just happened on the 20th, it was released. Pros about this is another way to communicate. You can link your YouTube videos with that site. Other people can submit documents on how to document a language. It's mostly Google Docs that are supported through it. One of the cons, though, real quick, was that I was trying to add Uda to their map of endangered languages, and it was very difficult for me to find out how you do that. It seems like they have a committee that you have to apply for, and then they will approve you and put you on their map. But it wasn't very upfront about that, so I had to really do some research. Because they only have the LCAT database that has a little over 3,000 languages in it, but there's more than that that you can consider endangered. So we'll see how it grows and how it changes, but that's all I have. So.
just forget? Okay, hold on. Ami Nkre Amy. Mbak Ki Uda Practicum. And today I'm going to talk about, wait a minute, this isn't the right slide. No, the discourse. Actually, do you have the USB? Because this is my older version of. Sorry. Yeah, eventually. Sorry, apologies. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about cohesion under the framework of Dooley and Levinson, 2001. And I'm going to be looking at two Uda stories, one of which is the well-known monkey story from now. Just to give you an overview, I'm going to talk about the framework that I use, and then I'm going to jump into the analysis of the monkey story, summarize that, and then analyze the bad sister story that we also got from Chris. Do a summary, and then wrap up with the conclusion. So just real briefly, in case you're not familiar with the Dooley and Levinson model, cohesion is the use of linguistic means to signal coherence. And signals of cohesion indicate how the part of the text with which they occur link up conceptually with some other part. It is common to speak of such signals as cohesive text. So there are many elements of Dooley and Levinson's cohesion theory of discourse, and some of these can be applied to traditional stories. They include repetition, reference pronouns, demonstrative reference, substitution, and there's different categories, like subcategories within these categories. Ellipsis, hyponymy, part-whole relationship, collocation, and conjunction. So hopefully you guys can see that. So when we jump into cohesion in the monkey story, we're seeing that there's a lot of repetition for the main characters. And this kind of signals their importance in the text. So monkey appears 19 times, child appears the most, which in the end I'll explain a little bit about what this means. So yeah, and then we have the husband. He's a minor participant, and he repeats, the word itself repeats 11 times. So, oops. In terms of personal reference, it often is, the reference is often for the main protagonist or the monkey. And the use of the first person singular marker primarily appears in dialogue between the husband and wife, when, you know, especially when the husband's like, monkey? And, you know, yeah. And she says monkey, so, yeah. And then for demonstrative reference, this occurs frequently in the text. Ami, which is this, usually refers back to the woman, while Ani, which I'm not entirely sure if it's Ani or Ki, or there was another one that I got, but usually refers to the monkey. And in terms of comparative reference, so what I mean by comparative reference is if we're talking about a little bit, or an equal amount of something or another. And this appears in the form of tu, tu, tu. This is repeated 3 times, and though we might consider it an euphone, the repetition reinforces that comparative element. And then for substitution, we have nominal ellipsis. And so when It's just basically when something appears, like in this example, equo song appears after quo, third person singular sing, and then it's omitted, like the equo is omitted later in the example, so we can pop over there. And you can see that it goes to null, so the equal is, you know, implied, but just not there. Oops. And then for part-whole relationship, in this example, and I don't think my free translation is quite the same as what we had for the actual story that we showed up there, but evoke ane atihe ke onyo iti ari ma oyo isigi ke ubo.
Good.
So yeah, so the hand of the monkey is the part that's referring back to the monkey himself. So yeah. And then we see again how when he's walking on his toes, how that refers back to the monkey again in this example. And then, let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, great. Collocation, when we're talking about collocation, we're talking about grouping of semantically related notions. And it's a very common cohesive practice in the text. Primarily hunting is represented in the text, but we also see some farming and weeding examples, as well as body part representation. Oops. Just make sure. I'm so bad with PowerPoints. It should be much simpler for me. Okay. So to summarize, the monkey story incorporates many cohesive devices, but the one thing that we didn't see was conjunction or hyphenony. And then the repetition of the devices reinforce the moral of the story. Because I mean, why is it important to look at cohesion? And I think that it does go back to the moral of the story, which is do not return good with evil. And it's evident in how many times the word oyo, child, is repeated, because when, you know, the fate of the child, it was a result of the mother's decision to tell her husband about the monkey. Now turning to, am I okay on time? Okay, yeah.
Ebook.
Oh, ebook, okay. Okay. Oh, sorry. Well, there's if you want to see the rest of this PowerPoint, I can show it to you. But yeah. And then the ebook is, so, oops, I guess you can see it just fine there. The ebook was after, so, you know, I did some discourse work on the stories, but I also really, really wanted to give something back to the community. So I'd been working on compiling as many stories as I could and try to get as many people involved in the ebook as possible. So we all worked together as a team. We had the whole practicum who worked really hard to transcribe the stories, and Ufan was very, very helpful and drew some pictures, and I tailored them some, but ultimately it was her work. And so yeah, it begins with talking a little bit about the orthography, and then we have an introduction to the storytelling, introduction to storytelling practices in general in Uda. So this just kind of gives a brief overview. And then I want to show you some of the really cool features, which we'll probably end up putting this on Scribd, so people can download it and hear it if, you know, that's one way of doing that. So then we have lullabies, a section on lullabies. Look at the baby. And when you click, I don't know if you'll be able to hear the sound, but let's try. Oh, just, I can hear it, but. Okay, so it does play audio though, and as you can see, it's playing. So that's what's really exciting about that. is that you can include audio, and I don't know, because I felt like, you know, the stories weren't really represented as well without the stories, you know, or the songs. You need the songs to really appreciate them, and so that's where and then there's more audio, and we have the monkey story with some more pictures, the monkey, and then we have some passiva and bush and the gun where it goes kapow. So yeah, and then this is the story that I didn't get to, but it's Bad Sister. And yeah, so that's pretty much it.
So thank you very much for listening to all of that. So that's what we have been spending our time doing in the past 4 weeks. And I'd like to use this medium to thank the participants. They have been wonderful, and the consultants too. But I'd like to thank the participants especially because, as Brandon mentioned during his presentation, they are students. They don't have a lot of money, but they donated. They went and bought very expensive hard drives, 2 of them, not just 1. So you can take back. So I'd like you to please say thank you to them. It's also on. So thank you very much for listening. I don't know if you still have very little time for questions, comments, but if you have questions,
I know you have questions because I've got questions.
go ahead.
No.
I have a comment. You guys have set the bar pretty high.
That was a very, very impressive set of presentations, I have to say.